Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Thanks for joining us. Today we're going to be continuing our series on how to grow dragon fruit. First and foremost, big thanks to all of you who participated in our recent dragon fruit giveaway. Congratulations to all the winners. All the dragon fruit have been shipped out, as well as the electric backpack sprayers and the prizes provided by Petra Tools. It was absolutely epic. And if you like channel giveaways, be sure to subscribe to this one, because coming up, we'll be giving away sausage making equipment, grinders, stuffers, all that really great stuff, cold smoke generators, electric smokers like you see in our video, pH meters if you're into salami, all kinds of really great stuff. I hope you could be a part of it. Let's talk about dragon fruit. In today's episode, we are going to be talking about the very next step in growing dragon fruit, and it's how to train your dragon. Now, what I'm about to tell you is not entirely necessary. Where I live, there are plenty of unruly dragons that grow and produce fruit each year. But it is important to know that a properly trained dragon fruit plant will grow faster and will not only produce fruit, but will produce an abundance of fruit a lot faster than an untrained dragon fruit. Training your dragon fruit plant comes down to two techniques, and I'm going to show you both techniques here in just a second, but the first technique is all about harnessing the energy of your plant. Our goal for growing dragon fruit at home should be to get our dragon fruit plant to trellis as soon as possible. And what that basically means is that we want the top of our cactus, right, to be above the trellis line, whether it's in a pot or in the ground. Now, as your plant begins to grow, you're going to notice that it's going to want to shoot off new branches. And for every new branch that your dragon fruit plant produces, the energy that your plant has is going to be divided. So a dragon fruit plant that has a lot of branches is going to grow relatively slow. But if you cut off those branches, if you begin to train your dragon fruit to just go up with one vertical branch, 100% of that energy is going to be focused on growing that one branch, which is going to get it to skyrocket to the top of that trellis in no time. The next technique in how to train your dragon is about vertical mobility. And this is all about keeping your plant moving in an upward direction until you get to the trellis. Once you get to the trellis, your plant is going to get tipped and then it's going to cascade over like a beautiful palm. But before that, we want our plant growing upwards and straight as much as possible. Through the life of your dragon fruit, some branches tend to act a little unruly. They're going to grow sideways, they're going to want to point down, and so it's important to be able to wrap them in such a way delicately so you don't break them, so that everything is moving in an upward direction, and I'll show you what that looks like here as well. Let's get into the orchard.
All right, so the first technique is about eliminating excess branches. Notice we have two new branches starting to form. We're just going to pop off the smaller one. On this dragon fruit, we've got one that's a little more developed than the other one. We've got a new branch just starting to form. I'm going to go ahead and pop it off before it has a chance to grow any bigger. And notice these two, these kind of came out at the same time. We're just going to go ahead and pop that top one off. That top one looks a little bit smaller. The bottom one, I think, looks a little healthier. So there you go, just like that. Now, these are a little more developed. At a certain point, you're going to notice that your dragon fruit is going to start growing quite rapidly. We only want one, so we're going to go ahead and cut the smaller one. We're going to leave that large, healthy one to get to the top. Grab your sterilized garden shears and just clip it right at the base. There you go, just like so. This particular variety, known as Sabra, has 3 branches coming off right at the top. We're going to keep the largest, healthiest one, and we're just going to trim off those 2 smaller ones. And that's it. It's just as easy as that. So I think you get the idea. Keep one main stalk, trim off any additional branches, and to sterilize your shears, which is super important, you could use rubbing alcohol. That way you don't introduce any contamination. And this particular process can be done at any time. So if you've never done it, now would be a great time to go out into your yard and trim off any excess branches from your dragon fruit plants. And here's a question. What do you do with your cuttings? Well, one thing you could do with them is place them in a shady area, let that cut heal, let it callus over, and then after a week or 2, you can root them, and you now have more dragon fruit plants. Now, it is important for you to know that the larger the cutting, the easier it's going to be to root them, but I have gotten small cuttings like this Queen Daenerys to root without any problem. Okay, so let's look at technique number 2, upward mobility. All right, let's take a look at this plant. Notice we've got a single stalk and it's starting to grow out. Eventually, that's going to become problematic because it's going to get heavy, it's going to start to droop, and we don't want that. We want it to grow up. And so this is a fairly easy fix. All we got to do is very gently push that back against the post, where we're going to take some garden tape and securely fasten it. Not that big a deal. Now, typically, whenever I'm using garden tape, I'll usually tie it in a way where it's relatively easy to untie because I'm always adjusting my plants, keeping everything growing nice and straight. All right, so here we go. We're just going to go ahead and tie that up and notice that everything is moving upwards in the right direction. This is absolutely perfect. Let's take a look at another example. So this particular vine is doing the same thing, and we want it to go upwards. But if I take that top part and push it up against the post, I'm getting a little resistance right at that node. And what I don't want to do is break that cactus branch off. So what we're going to do is push that bottom section a little bit closer to the post, tie it off, and then at that point we can tie off the top section, and then we'll have everything moving in the right direction. So I guess the point here is be gentle when you're training your dragon fruit plants. Some of the new growth can be a little delicate, especially around the node area, but other than that, not a whole lot to worry about. So as soon as we got that bottom part tied off, we're now going to tie off that top section just like so. We don't have to worry about breaking it off, and now our plant is growing upwards and it will trellis very quickly. One last little example. This variety is called Baby Serrato. I noticed the new branch growing outwards, and it's always easier when you catch the new growth, sooner rather than later. So what I did was I very loosely tied that new growth a little bit closer to the post. Notice it's still a little further away. So what we're going to do right now is just remove that garden tape and then bring everything in a little bit tighter. And so that's what we're going to do right now. So I'm going to remove that tape, and this is why I like to tie my tape in such a way where I can just undo it very easily. Let me go ahead and remove that tag. There we go. Awesome variety, Baby Serrato. A relative to the Thick King variety, which is the one right there, right by my hand. And there we go. All right, now we have that dragon fruit cactus a little more vertical. As it grows a little taller, we'll be able to securely fasten that to the post. If you follow this practice, this is what your dragon fruit cactus should look like on a trellis. You've got one stalk all the way to the top, and once it trellises, we'll give it a little trim and then begin the process of growing additional branches. Keeping your plants trimmed and tidy, especially when they're young, will help your dragon fruit grow fast. They'll be a whole lot healthier. And when you give your dragon fruit plant what it wants, it's going to give you what you want, which is amazing dragon fruit.
All right, folks, that's all I got for you today. For those of you who are just joining us, we literally started with a handful of cuttings. We now have a full-blown orchard in our backyard. This has been a project that started a little under a year ago, and if you're into growing dragon fruit, you're definitely going to want to stick around because we're going to cover everything there is to know about how to grow this absolutely amazing plant. In our next dragon fruit video, we're going to be talking about what a trellising dragon fruit looks like and what it means to properly tip it. But I got to tell you, we've got a lot of stuff going on right now. It's like everything is exploding. We've got buds and flowers and pollination. We're doing foliar sprays and root drenching. We're going to cover all that stuff in this series. Thanks a lot for being here. If you have any questions on how to train your dragon, leave them in the comment section below. And if you got something out of this video, a thumbs up is always appreciated. Thanks a lot for being here. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.